Travis Wayne Goodsell, having done the I am better than the LDS prophets at being a prophet this morning, which is not really getting many views, we'll go on to criticizing Mormon doctrine. The church, on their official channel, did one 23 hours ago and have 17,000 views. It must be so nice to control the internet so that you can control the narrative, as very few are going to even come to this video. But they did it on, I know His grace is there when I fall. His grace. What Mormons don't realize, because we're born and raised in the church, we don't see it. It becomes second nature to us. Just like in Russia, they don't realize they're born and raised in corruption. Government corruption, economic corruption, societal corruption. Everything's all about extortion, getting the upper hand on others. And with the church, when it comes to grace, grace is extorted in the church. You don't qualify for grace unless you do them a favor, though. And that's discouraging, because grace is supposed to be the free thing, that you really don't have to do anything to get it. That's why it's called grace. The church refuses to have amazing grace in their hymn book. Not just because they're racist, but because they claim it's false doctrine. Well, yeah. Amazing grace is free. You're not being extorted. The church's grace, you're extorted. You have to do things. Now, when doing advertising or any kind of video, audio output for the public to view or listen to, it is important to understand how you are presenting. When I do my videos, it's me. You get what you see. I'm not trying to deceive you. I'm not trying to entertain you either. Many of you are upset that I'm not entertaining you. And so when you put somebody to represent a video for the church, you have to be very careful about the image you're setting. For example, if you want to show that you're not white supremacist, it's best not to have token blacks, and especially white supremacists, doing all the talking about how they're not white supremacists. And so here, the thumbnail is a picture of an old, obese, balding, graying, white male who's in a t-shirt. They don't do wife beaters anymore. That was back in the 80s when people were making fun of the wife beaters. But you know, we can take the joke even further because of the thumbnail that they chose to have represent on this video. This guy is supposed to be a guy who's fallen and who's had his grace because he's fallen. He's given in to the extortion threat. And that's all from just the thumbnail picture and the title of the video. Haven't bothered to listen, not going to bother. I'm born and raised Mormon. I know all about it. I don't really want to be horrified even further of any surprise changes in the doctrine of grace of Mormonism. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all as if he's at home in the basement with his mother. But yeah, That's what you got to do to be careful. In the movie Nothing to Lose, Martin Lawrence, I think. Is it Martin Lawrence? I think so. He kidnaps at gunpoint, which the gun wasn't loaded, I guess, or I guess it was loaded, because it does, yeah. But he kidnaps a guy who has lost everything in his life. He thought his wife had cheated on him with his boss, and he is in marketing, and so he has companies come to their company, and he's in charge of making sure that advertising can be promoted to the companies, that they can then put on advertisements on TV and whatever. And one guy gets up in the morning session for ideas for a company, and it's for a chocolate chip cookie company, and he has Chippy the Chip with a trail of chocolate chips. And he's talking about spreading chocolate goodness wherever he goes, and it looks like the emoji for poop. And so, yeah, he's reminded, what's the last thing you want on people's minds when they're taking a bite of the particular cookie? And so, yeah, you've got to be very careful. And so a lot of the times I'll put a thumbnail. Maybe I should put that cookie. I don't know if I can find it. Well, we'll see if I can find it. Chippy. Chip. Nothing to lose. Okay. We'll make that my thumbnail. But when you hover over the thumbnail, you see somebody with a pharmaceutical drug, because the church would never have anything in their possession illegal and showing it on a video. And then they showed a sign from Las Vegas for a casino. And that's supposed to be sinful stuff. Pharmaceutical drugs and gambling in Las Vegas. And so I don't know if we find out what this guy did to fall. I know in Together Forever, the Mission Church video that was put out way back in the 80s or 70s, could have been the 80s, because that's when videos were out. And in there, the guy is trying to talk about the evils of sin that separates the family unit. And he says, pretty soon the women at the office start looking better and better, plural, mind you, and your family looks worse and worse, and before you know it, boom, you've lost everything. And when I first realized that on my mission, having the audio tape, cassette tape, shows you how old I am, but I'm listening to it on my mission, and I listen to it over and over again. It's got music in there and stuff, and so listening to it on my mission, and I was in Poughkeepsie, and not Poughkeepsie, at Massapequa Park. I was in the Pleasure Dome. And it all of a sudden hit me. I finally got woke as to what he was actually saying. He had cheated on his wife with not one, but many of the women at the office. And there he was. He had an architectural job still. But apparently he had lost his family. Or something, I guess. But, what the hell? And so, with this guy, we're left to assume from the thumbnail and hovering over that this guy does pharmaceutical drugs, most likely for his obesity and the problems that result from obesity, and for his gambling addiction. That's the way they presented this short little 6-minute, 25-second video that 17,000 have already seen and are going, oh yeah, I'm never going to gamble and do pharmaceutical drugs. Church is so true. Oh, they're protecting me from the evils of the world. That's how Mormons are. It's so sickening. And to be a victim of it as Mormons enforce it on other people, it's just horrifying. It's like the whole story of Lucifer and the premortal council with his alternate plan of misery by taking away agency. It's like Mormons are not making the connection that they're trying to take away agency and thus are following Lucifer and thus are satanic and thus worship the devil, and yet they go around saying, Jesus is so cool, join or die. Conform and comply or you don't get his grace. Just a nightmare, literally. And so, what else have I got here? Oh, yeah. And so, yeah, they don't see Satanism in their lives when they try to take away other people's agency. They don't see insurrection. We just had this. Mormons in Congress were inciting the insurrection. So far, they're not being pursued and investigated for their role. Burgess Owens and Chris Stewart and Mike Lee. Mike Lee flip-flops when he knows he's in trouble. But, God. And then actual Mormons were there. There's one from Utah, and then there was the other guy from Idaho scaling the walls of the inner chamber that made the front page news. You know, these were Mormons. And they're there overturning the government to destroy it. Despite knowing about Joseph Smith saying, oh yeah, the government will be on the brink of ruin and the Constitution, everybody knows it is hanged by a thread, but and there they were, destroying America. As if Joseph Smith never came to their mind, that these aren't the latter days. Maybe they think that his grace, oh gee, I'm sorry, I confess, I was an insurrectionist, I worship Lucifer, so do I get Jesus' grace now? It doesn't work that way. You have to have a complete change of mind. And if you're just thinking that popping pharmaceutical pills and gambling are what sends you to hell, you've missed the whole point. Because Satanism and insurrection are all part and parcel of incorrect belief systems, not outward performances. Outward performances is idolatry. And so the true repentance, metanoia, from the Greek, it's a change of mind. In Hebrew, the corrected word refers to turning your direction. And so you'll often see, turn unto the Lord. because you've turned in the wrong direction. That's why the tree of life has a path leading to the tree of life with the iron rod to cling to in the midst of darkness, and then there's the forbidden paths. You need to turn from the forbidden paths onto the tree of life path. It's amazing, isn't it, how the Book of Mormon says it's after the learning of the Jews, and there's Jewish concepts in there. And hold on while I take care of this. And so changing your whole thought processes isn't about, oh, I can't do this, I have to do this, I can't do that, but I can do this, and I should do this, and I should do it in a certain amount of time per day as a quota. No. That's not Mormonism. That may be the current church, as they've fooled you into believing it is, so that you get distracted from them as being false prophets. That they don't have any grace to give you when you conform and comply. That's the trap. The LDS prophets have no grace to give you. Their God is fake. He's not the true God. So there is no grace for you. No matter what you do, according to all that they ask of you, demand of you, extort from you, there's nothing there. Just like an actual extortionist. So, don't fall for this. This video should be banned. It's not freedom of religion. This is criminal.